My name is Nick Kastner. I'm with Forum Communications, based in Gainesville, Georgia. I've been in marketing for, 20 years, which is kind of crazy to think about. Um, and Oversee digital and brand strategy at Forum, and we work with a lot of local clients, small businesses, medium-sized businesses um, that range in size and scope and all that sort of thing. So hopefully today I'll be able to provide you a little bit of information that'll help you along the way in terms of everything that's happening right now. What we do, we're a full service agency and we focus on helping brands find their voice in a crowded marketplace. We've been honored and blessed to win a lot of awards over the past few years, including a number of creative awards recently. And we do a lot of different things. As I mentioned, we're a full service agency. So we do everything from web design, um, graphic design, brand development, you name it, we do it, social media, etc. And how we do that is we formulate. We're problem solvers, dreamers, doers, and planners. But really, what we do is we start with the marketing plan and go from there. We do have a lot of, and under that umbrella, of course, a lot of different services that fit under that. So, what matters to you today? Before the end of March, marketers said 69% would decrease their marketing spend for 2020. 74% are posting on social media less frequently, although internet usage and social media usage is way up, which is an odd thing to say. In terms of businesses pulling out when everyone else is jumping in. 41% are actually planning to increase marketing activities. So some businesses are seeing an opportunity right now and kind of leaning into that. There's also other research data out there that 34% of businesses shifted their social media efforts away from Instagram to Twitter just because they can't post the image related content right now that you need for Instagram. 73% of businesses expect a decrease in local or domestic demand. And then 90% of marketers say their budget commitments are delayed or under review. And that's up from 60% just 3 weeks ago. 85% of marketers say they've paused new hires. And then we see almost double the number of marketers who are saying that their technology or marketing infrastructure work is suspended due to the virus. So we also know that a lot of industry sectors are impacted in a big way. So some of those impacted the most are travel and tourism. So Marriott recently laid off tens of thousands of workers. Movie theaters like Regal Cinemas and AMC, there locally, Regal laid off 25,000 workers. Live events and sports, the NBA will actually lose $450 million from a loss in ticket sales, and including playoff revenues, and $200 million from non-ticket revenues, so jersey sales and those sort of things. Shipping and supply chain, where you would think they would be busier. The International Chamber of Shipping said that the pandemic is costing shipping and supply chain companies $350 million per week. Film production, automakers, oil and gas, retailers, brick and mortar sales still account for 75% of most sales. And they're seeing a drop in that, of course, because people with shelter in place orders, you can't really go visit a brick and mortar stores frequently. Technology, the graphics card producer NVIDIA, who produces video graphics cards for laptops and computers, lowered their earnings projection by $100 million. So we see it affecting lots and lots of businesses. We're huge Disney fans, so Disney's losing $350 million per week by not having their parks open. So lots of businesses feel like this. They feel like they're never going to financially recover from everything that's going on. And media is not helping. A reporter from CNN said the world hasn't seen a recession this bad since the 30s, which of course scares people to think about the Great Depression, and that recovery is far from certain. But there are some things we do know. Um, from the Harvard Business Review, there's been a lot of research around what happens during a pandemic. So the closest thing to this that we can relate to would be the 1918 Spanish flu, and it took place over a 3-year period. And you'll see if you look at the chart, real GDP growth in 1917, of course, dropped and significantly, but it came back in 1918. If you look at the Hong Kong flu, which took 100,000 Americans, we also see a dip between 1968 and 1969. In 1958, during the Asian flu, we see a drop. And then during the SARS pandemic, which wasn't nearly as aggressive as COVID-19 is, we also saw a drop in GDP. So while we've seen this in the past, I don't think we've ever seen a global shutdown like we've seen, but all of these in the past have been V-shaped returns. And so when you've heard President Trump say it may be a V-shaped return, that's what they're expecting. And so you can see this kind of drop off in the second quarter, a significant kind of hit in the beginning of the third quarter, and then a spike in the fourth quarter. It's also possible it may take a little longer and lean into this more U-shaped scenario where we see a decline, but a steady increase over a couple of quarters. So, I don't think, although I know there's not a fear in this, I don't think this is a long-term problem. It is, but so there's no reason to make long-term decisions on a short-term problem. So should I continue to advertise is the first question that a lot of businesses ask. Maybe. It really depends. You've heard businesses say that they've lost revenue, but you have to take in consideration how much revenue they've lost. So has your business only lost 10% of your revenue, and then you want to cut marketing entirely? That's not logical. It's kind of like the we have to hoard the toilet paper decision, right? We're going to cause problems in the long term because we want to make rapid and kind of aggressive decisions right now. The SBA has always recommended that businesses spend 7 to 8% of their gross revenue for marketing if you're making less than $5 million a year in sales, which tends to be about 10 to 12% of net margin. So why is it maybe that you should cut advertising and not, you absolutely should not? Well, it's industry and business specific. So if you are a movie theater and no one can come to your movie theater because your business is closed, then it doesn't make a lot of sense to actually run ads to something that you can't do. But for other industries, you've just seen a decrease in sales, it's not that you lost everything. And so you have to make wise business decisions on whether or not to cut the marketing budget. You focus on essential customers, which is another thing that you could do. So what may work for one business could crash another. So it's not like there's an answer across the board for every business or every industry. So then what do we know? Well, we know that smart marketers don't always cut marketing budgets in hard times. If you think about the recession in 2008, there's a lot of research done about businesses that continued to market during that time, and the marketers that just shifted marketing dollars around actually did really well. And those that continued to brand actually outperformed those that did not brand during that period of time. So most businesses don't stop, they shift. So today could be different, given that this is such a short period of time that we're expecting this to happen over, for some of us, a quarter or 2 quarters. That's not really a long time. It seems like it is, but it's not. Building brand right now could create loyalty for life, or at least loyalty in the near term. So those things could be good for your business. So the things that we do know and the things that we think we should do is realize that we do have options. So there's not a one size fits all. For some, it may be that you need to cut marketing dollars and shift to guerrilla tactics, focusing on social media, something that you can control daily, and not necessarily buy a bunch of media, but still be active. For others, it could be that you increase the marketing budget because there's an opportunity right now that you didn't know you had. So there are a few things that all businesses should do right now. And they're not secret. They're not some sort of secret sauce, if you will, that we apply to clients. It really is just being logical and thinking through what you're trying to accomplish for your business and what your business goals are. So number one is know your customer. Now more than ever, you need to understand your customers' needs and meet them. So if you've never taken the time to think about where your customer is, now's a good time to do that, because this has obviously affected you. It's affected your customers. It's affected your kids. It's affected everything. So you have to think through that. What we do know is that when people are fearful, especially when it comes to a health issue, if you go back to the hierarchy of needs back from business school or college, we know that people have to have certain needs met before they can kind of move on to the next step. And so right now, most consumers are in this safety needs space, right? They're concerned about their health and their property and will they have a job and those sort of things. If you know that consumers are in that space, then you can make decisions to either speak to that or to help them in some way or to lean in to support your customer base and your prospect base rather than trying to push them to some other level that they're not ready for. So, if you're pushing I would also venture to say that many people are in this love and belonging stage because they feel alone. So, providing them a sense of connection can also be beneficial for your business from just a kind of base level standpoint in your messaging. So, we know people are doing this, right? They're hoarding toilet paper. This is a real image of someone buying pallets of toilet paper when this first started. And then people attempting to find ways to find safety, right? You can't buy masks, but you can tape some hefty bags together. So those are real things that people are doing because of they are in this safety space. So again, from Harvard Business Review, we know that there are groups of consumers that will make different decisions at different times. And so there's a group that will slam on the brakes and they will seek cheap products and they will not spend any more money on anything because they're concerned. There's a group that will be pained, but they'll be patient about it. They'll still buy things, but may cut back on some of the things that they normally buy that would be considered treats or things that they could postpone, like major purchases. But it doesn't mean they won't happen. They just may happen later. So again, that V spike that you saw in the chart. Another behavior would be someone that's comfortably well off, where they're not concerned about being able to buy things because they have funds. They may just be a little wiser. And then you have a group that lives for today and they're just going to do whatever they want to do. So your customer's reality has changed. Can't ignore that. That's just real for all of us. But we can live in their context. We can live in the environment that they're in, because we are all individually living in that environment, whether we like it or not. But we can also put ourselves in their shoes and understand kind of where they are. And so we have some both clients that are doing that and some businesses out there that are doing a good job of that. So one of our clients is Longstreet Clinic. They have a number, they're one of the largest or the largest privately held medical specialty practice in the state. And their 25th anniversary is this year. And so we had begun planning major advertising for their 25th anniversary, but all that came to a stop because of COVID-19. And so what we've done instead is we've shifted to telehealth. So for those of you not in the healthcare space, you may not realize how negatively, how much impact COVID-19 has on healthcare facilities. The majority of income for healthcare facilities comes from elective procedures. So if you think about, the even in appendicitis, right? You get appendicitis, and well, now instead of having surgery, some are choosing to just medicate it until they have the ability to have surgeries again at the hospital. Or if you have any like a knee replacement or a shoulder surgery or any of those things, they're being delayed, and so that affects all healthcare facilities. So what we've done is we've shifted, as most facilities have, to promote things like telehealth. So you'll see this image here where we're now promoting telehealth and video visits. We've also published coronavirus data for them, and then also kind of repurposed the billboard campaign we had planned. We had billboards that were planned for robotic surgery and urgent care and those sort of things, which are popular activities this time of year. Instead, we've had to shift messaging again. So again, plans change, so we have to shift and make good decisions. So the number two tip that I would give you is, what do you offer that they still need? So some businesses are really struggling and that you don't have things necessarily that people need right now or that are buying frequently. So can you pivot temporarily? So data ending the week of April 5th showed that certain products had seen a significant decline in sales. However, beer, packaged goods, dish soaps, trash bags, and home essential sales have soared. So we know that people are still buying things. They may just not be buying the things that they were buying before right now. So a good example of a business that's done a good job in pivoting would be Georgia Tech. So Georgia Tech, their sports program, of course, they're getting ready for the NCAA football season. And so what they've done, though, is their strength and conditioning coaches are publishing all of the workouts for the student athletes on Twitter. And so you can actually do the same daily workouts that the team is doing. And so there was one of the sports writers for Georgia Tech actually wrote an article about how she had started doing these workouts and how much weight she had lost just from doing these workouts daily. So another interesting example is a client of ours, Biotrauma. They're a crime scene and trauma cleanup company based here in North Georgia. And so I know what it seems that they do seems kind of gruesome. Ryan, the owner, actually did that work when he was in the Marine Corps. And so when he came back to Georgia, he started a business to do kind of what he had learned in the military. And so they actually offer disinfectant services for businesses. So they can come in, they actually follow CDC guidelines and use the same equipment that they would use to disinfect a home after a death to come in and clean a business. And so they can come in and actually it kills all the viruses and bacteria in the area. And they also wipe it down and everything else following those guidelines. So that's a good example of a business that's kind of shifted. And they also have been looking at other opportunities to do similar things, possibly for medical personnel to help with PPE equipment. Another good example. So most of you, if you have children, you know the Trolls World Tour movie was coming out April 10th. They shifted, right, because AMC theaters, Regal Cinemas, all of these theater companies had closed, to offer the movie online rather than delay it. And so they've seen significant sales, although it may not be what they would have had. They've seen significant sales in the Trolls World Tour movie just from renting on Amazon at a premium. Another good example is a local organization, the Northeast Georgia History Center, based in Gainesville. They have shifted to offer just live stream events from home. So they do these things daily, every day of the week, and many of them are quite funny, and they've done a good job of shifting their organization where they were getting field trips and students coming in daily. Now they're not, so how can they continue to drive interest in the organization? So that's just another good example of how companies or organizations have shifted. One of the ideas that I would present would be, if you were a gym, can you now offer paid online classes rather than just, because I mean, most all gyms are shut down right now. Can you just offer online classes that people can still participate in and pay for? Or if they've already paid for the class, can you continue to do that? My daughter is in Let There Be Rock School. She's learning how to play drums, and her classes are now online. So they just have a Zoom meeting, and she still has her lesson every week. So number 3 is don't ignore social media. I mentioned earlier that businesses had shifted to stop posting on social media right now, which is to their detriment because consumers are actually consuming more content than ever before. Many of you probably are now familiar with TikTok, although you may have never seen it before the past few weeks. You've probably all scrolled through Facebook looking for something positive. You've probably all seen a Tiger King meme over the past couple of weeks. You also have probably all seen, or many of you have probably seen John Krasinski's Some Good News, right? So you're all looking for content. People are constantly looking for content. And many people are just bored, so they're trying to find something to take that time. So data shows in March, so last month, there was a 70% increase in internet usage as of March 25th. And again, strange, but true. There's been a 30% decrease in cost per click spend due to decreased ad demand. So there's been a 70% increase in internet usage, but people are spending less money on advertising online when there are more people there. Again, it's counterintuitive. That's the thing it's really interesting that people are cutting budgets, right? So you're cutting marketing budgets, but more people are on the internet. So those things don't compute. And then 20% increase in mobile app activity across all app types. So again, people are on their phone more often than they were previously. So how do you make good social media decisions for your business? Well, it depends on what platform matters for your customer. TikTok is very popular with Gen Z. There are even a number of millennials on it, but it's not for everyone. Like TikTok doesn't work for every business. It does work for some, and it works if you have the right personality, but it also can be a massive failure for others. So just be wise. Twitter is useful for some businesses, but not for everyone. It works well for B2B. It works well for large consumer organizations, but I mean B2C companies, but it's not for everyone. Instagram, also a great channel, but right now, if you can't produce constant photos, then it's going to be a struggle. So you have to be wise, don't overcommit. Facebook seems to be very popular. I would also tell you, if you are in B2B, LinkedIn is where you need to be. There are a couple of articles I saw this week about how LinkedIn, for some businesses, may be the key to coming out on top of whatever this is, or however long this recession period lasts. So some examples that I have, also some clients, some are not, but we've worked with the Georgia Mountain Food Bank for a number of years, and they've had a very active social media presence. Many of you have seen information about Feeding America and trying to work with local food banks. Well, with the volume of food needs at a high right now, with the number of people out of work, individuals that the thing that these organizations need are support, right? So they need funding and they need donations. So how do you cut through the clutter when everyone seems to be doing that? Well, we've worked with them for years, and so the messaging is about delivering hope that we've created, and we are boosting these posts, but not to some massive degree. So we're not spending a lot of money. We're spending a little bit of money, but not a lot of money. $50, $100, $150 on boosting these posts. And you'll see the interaction for this post alone back from March 4th. So March 4th is when this sort of started, and you see, all of these interactions, 88 shares. And so the reach for this individual post is just astronomical. Same with this post. You see this post reached almost 8,000 people and had 539 engagements. So again, and this was March 18th. So these numbers aren't outrageous. The spend to promote these posts isn't, outrageous. but it has helped their organization continue to move forward during this time. For those that own restaurants, another really cool thing that this California ad agency came up with was the Great American Takeout. So with the Great American Takeout, you can actually get free marketing materials for your restaurant. And every week they choose a different restaurant sector and encourage individuals to support those restaurants in the local area. So the Great American Pizza Party is today. So what you can do, you can actually enter to win a full-size arcade machine that's being put together and funded by some of the partners of this ad agency. But a local restaurant, a local pizza restaurant, can easily take these graphics, create them, and be part of that at no cost. And so it's a really easy way to promote your business and be part of the kind of national movement to support local business. So that's another really neat thing that's happening across the country. And then number 4 is, how are you protecting your customers? So many of you a couple of weeks ago were just bombarded with emails about how you're being how businesses are taking care of their customers during this time. And so consumers are afraid because of the unknown, and going back to the hierarchy of needs we talked about earlier. So what can your business do to remove the fear for your consumers? So, and it doesn't have to be just some sort of email that everybody else did either. We've seen some really good examples of that, both in our client base and across the country. So one of those is a small organization we work with out of Houston called Barcode Depot. And so they actually, what they do is they repair RF scanners and terminals for shipping companies. And so what they're doing is they bought a bunch of homemade hand sanitizer from a local entrepreneur and is providing a free bottle of that with repaired or refurbished scanners until supplies run out. So they also produced a really short video, I mean, just with their phone on, here's what we're doing to make sure that when you receive your scanners, they're clean and so on and so forth. And we're giving you that as well. So again, it's simple, but it's effective. Zone Home Solutions, based in Buford, and they have offices throughout the Atlanta area. Right now is the busiest season for pest control. There have been tons of termite swarms. They've been posting images straight from the field. So when they visit a home and they find all these termites, as well as spring mosquitoes are starting to show up. But what Zone is doing is, if they have an existing customer, so again, going back to taking care of your existing customers, they have an existing customer that was impacted by COVID-19 because they lost their job, or maybe a family member had it or they had it, then what they're doing is they're offering free services for like a period of 2 to 3 months. So the email that contained that update, their typical open rate for an email was between 20 and 25%. The open rate for that email was 45%. So again, just communicating with customers to let them know what you're doing to help can be beneficial. And then the last major point I have is be vulnerable, not dramatic. So customers, employees want honesty, but if it's not crafted, it can be dramatic. So there's lots of data that shows that millennials and Gen Z customers want businesses to be authentic, to be honest. So it's okay to say that, things kind of suck right now, right? But you don't have to be aggressive in doing that. I've seen some businesses even post and say, will you donate to our business because we can't survive if you don't. And I understand that desperation, but again, it comes across as desperation. And so you have to be really careful to kind of follow the lines, even in some efforts where the effort is good overall. But if you create a promise that you can't meet, then you can also cause problems. So I have another video from another large business I want to show you, but I have an opinion about it, and I'm sure I'll get some in the comments. Speaking of which, if you have a question, please post in the comments, and then I'll work to answer those once we get through with the presentation. right. So there's this ad came out just a few days ago, and it's, in my opinion, the idea that Frito-Lay needs to tell people what they're doing because no one else is going to tell their story is true. That they need to be wise and explain to the kind of community at large or their target market at large what they're doing to help. However, they make a promise in this video that things are going to change for them moving forward. And so here's what's confusing is that doesn't match their brand story. So thus far, if you think about the Frito-Lay brand story, you think about potato chips and you think about they did the bags a few years ago where, they put different smiles in the bags. They also own Cheetos. So, you think about the Cheeto Tiger and those sort of things. And so, but they make a promise here that, that their brand is going to change in some way. So if that doesn't come to fruition, then they've made a brand promise they can't keep. And so again, this ad at times, especially when they do a little, business shaming at the beginning and start telling businesses that you shouldn't tell people how to think or feel, it's one of those ads that there's a lot of good content in it, but there's also some that may not be necessary. And so again, trying to find the balance is hard. So I'm not saying this ad's bad. I think there's a balance that you have to find, and being careful with that messaging is one of the critical things that we have to do now as marketers or business owners. So an example of a business that I think is a good job is BGW Dental Group, sorry. But they've done a tremendous job of being authentic. So we had planned for them to run ads that you see to the bottom left, and the ad copy says, "You smile, we smile, in all of life's moments." And so the idea here is that they celebrate with their customers, and they've always done a good job of celebrating with their patients through life events or birthdays or all of those sort of things. They'll even post on social media about them when they come in the office. And so we put together a whole campaign about that to storytell the things that they do. And so, but now's not the time, because the very first ad that was part of that set was talking about how great it is to spend time with family and friends. Well, right now we can't do that. So we've shifted their messaging, and of course they can't offer traditional dental services. If you're a dentist group, you know that you've had to shift to emergency dental services. And so we shifted all their ads to promote emergency dental services. And then their social media posts have been focused on either their essential workers, so their staff, producing short clip video you'll see just on a cell phone about what they're doing now. And then they've also raised over $20,000 to buy N95, like 3D printed N95 masks for local healthcare workers. So, they're being authentic. And so, the fundraising activity didn't cost them anything other than time. And I mean, they had a tremendous reach and a tremendous response through that. So before we get to the Q&A, I would just tell you as a business owner to think before you act. Marketing is not rocket science, but it does take some effort. And don't be afraid of marketing. So, as you think about, should you market, should you not market, should you advertise, should you not advertise, you just have to not give up on it, but you also have to be wise about what you do. You may not be what you had planned. Some businesses seem right now tone deaf because they are continuing to advertise if nothing was wrong, which is silly. The businesses that have shifted and been wise are the ones that people notice. So you just have to be smart about what you do. So now I'm going to go close down the screen sharing to look at the comments to see if any of you had any questions. Okay, so the first question that I have is, can you speak to the frequency of advertising during this time for small business? There are many businesses promoting their good deeds and intentions, but the sheer amount of business doing this, the impact of these seems washed out. So it really depends on what the purpose of your ad is. So when it comes to advertising frequency, most ads have to be seen, 7 times or more before people realize they've even seen them. So when you think about ad frequency, I'd encourage you to work to advertise as often as possible within the budget. Um, but in terms of good deeds and intentions, they just have to be. It depends on how it's crafted, right? I mean, it depends on what that activity is that you're trying to promote. So there are a lot of businesses promoting their good deeds, but I think the businesses that seem to cut through the clutter the most are the ones that really focus on what their customer needs are, right, at the moment. So that's what I would encourage you to do, is think about how you're meeting your existing customers' needs first, because then it shows it shows the marketplace what how you treat your customers, right? So hopefully that answered your question. Someone asked, what's the best advertising channel or best advertising method? Depends on the business. For you'll see across kind of the portfolio of companies that we work with, sometimes social media is extremely effective, sometimes it's not. We have a handful of clients who do print advertising, but most of it's in kind of we cherry pick the print advertising channels that we use, because we think through the content of that print piece. So if the print piece is heavily full, it's full of ads, and it seems more like a giant advertorial, then maybe that's not the best place for some of our clients. But we also, we do a lot of digital buys. We do ad buys on Pandora, and we do ad buys on Spotify and radio. And, again, it just depends on the client. We do a lot of billboard placement. We do believe billboard's a great place for brand development, but that's, again, that just depends on the client and the budget that they have. So those are the only 2 questions that I have. Does anyone have anything else? No. So I'd ask Jesse or Laura, do you have any questions or anything that you think I didn't cover? Oh, I have another question. So they asked if I could be reached after this forum. Yeah, of course. So my contact information, I'll pull that back up on the screen for just a second. So my email address is nick@forumspeaks.com. So FORUMSPEAKS.com. The number that I gave earlier, and that should be on the screen, 678-943-3859. That's my cell number. So feel free to call or text me. And then you can also reach me on Twitter at Professor of Life. It's a joke, that inside joke with a bunch of my friends, but that's my Twitter handle. And then of course you can reach me on LinkedIn. So it's just linkedin.com/n/Nick Kastner. Right. All right. So if there's nothing else, then Jesse and Laura, I think we're finished. And like I said, if you have questions, you can reach me, nick@forumspeaks.com, or on LinkedIn. You can probably just search my name, Nick Kastner, at Forum, and I'd be glad to connect with you and do anything I can to help any. And we at Forum would be glad to do anything we can to help any of our businesses here in North Georgia. Oh, yeah. And so Jesse just asked me to mention too, they have a webinar on Friday about LinkedIn. So if you wouldn't mind, the Forsyth County Chamber of Commerce is offering a LinkedIn webinar Friday. And that is actually something I'll be presenting. I'm doing a webinar on LinkedIn for business owners. So if you need any help regarding how to use LinkedIn to drive leads, especially for those businesses that are B2B, I'd encourage you to be part of that. All right. So with that, Oh, someone asked to repeat my phone number, 678. So my cell phone number is 678 943 3859. Right, and I'll actually put that in the comments. That way you've got it. All right. Well, thank you all very much. And like I said, I hope to hear from you. And if you have any questions, feel free to reach out.